Welcome back to another episode of The Science of Winning. Today I want to talk about the impact of slippage because there's a lot of slippage happening and I'm seeing more and more of this in the workforce today. And slippage is the difference between the expected performance and the actual performance. Now, when I'm talking about slippage, I'm talking about it being in short and subtle instances, short and subtle occurrences that may not seem like they're very important or they're going to have a big impact. But over the period of time or the course of time, when you have continuous slippage, you will notice that a person's performance is dropping. And that is the most important thing you hear out of today's episode, is that we have to be aware of slippage. We have to be aware of the signs of not only when our own performance is starting to slip, but other people on our team. If you take a look at a sports team, and it's easy to use a sports team as an analogy, and right now the Blue Jays are playing. And let's just say you see a player making these little errors, these little mistakes, whether it's a pitcher or somebody else in the outfield there. You're going to notice what we call in the workforce is slippage. And it may not seem like very much. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's an honest thing. I make mistakes. In fact, I made a mistake today. I sent an email to a person that I probably shouldn't have CC'd. But if we don't detect the errors immediately, or we continue to make the same error or challenges, then that slippage becomes more frequent. And that's a sign of lowering performance. And why am I even bringing this up? Because I'm seeing a massive amount of slippage in the workforce. I'm noticing in conversations that people are not remembering the conversations that we're having. In fact, we're having very factual, important conversations about business things that are critical for negotiations or critical for agreements, and people are missing out on key details. Or we've talked about something several times and they don't even remember. Or people are overlooking email. They're not responding to emails or communications in a timely fashion. These are all little things that are considered slippage, and they're, as a one-off, they're not very, I'm just going to say critical, right? They're not big warning signs. But if you start to see this and you start to see this add up over the course of a period of weeks or months or whatever that looks like, it's important to pay attention. Now, I notice this in people that I work with. I notice this in the clients that we work with. And the moment I start to see slippage, I pay a very close attention to it. So if a sports team, what ends up happening, the coaches and the people that track stats or are watching the players, that all of the trainers are paying attention to slippage. If they start to see more frequent slippage, they talk to the player. They either help the player correct the issue or they pull the player off the field. Okay, so that's exactly the same approach that we need to take a look at ourselves as business leaders, whether that's us or other people on our team. We have to take that same approach. So when you're starting to see a trend here, it's important to point it out because you don't want to let it slide, because most likely it will continue to get worse. And when you point it out, it's also our responsibility to give the resources and the training and the support to make sure that whatever that person needs to correct the slippage, they have those resources. And it could be time. Some people just need a little bit of time to recover. But if they are getting the resources and they are taking the time, and then they continue to have the slippage, then we need to make a very strong decision to say, okay, maybe there's a stronger course of action that's required here. Maybe this person needs to be retrained, or maybe this person needs longer time off. Maybe it's a vacation, a longer vacation, or maybe even, sabbatical or whatever that looks like. But again, I'm bringing this to your attention because this is very prominent. I can't tell you how many people on a daily basis I'm seeing slippage with. And I'm not necessarily a perfectionist. That's not the approach I'm taking here because I don't believe in perfectionism. But I do believe in pattern recognition. And I do believe in identifying patterns because that's how you become a really good leader, is when you identify patterns and see what the trajectory of the behavior is and where it's going. It's important to pay attention to that. It's just like anything else in life. If you're heading in a certain trajectory, we have to stop it because things in motion stay in motion unless there's an equal or opposite force. That is a core aspect of physics. And the same goes for someone's performance. If we're starting to see it slip, then we got to stop it and we got to turn the momentum around because slippage carries momentum. We got to turn the momentum around and help them get on the right track. And sometimes people are doing that themselves, and sometimes they require an intervention or support. In the past, people used to be able to identify this more effectively themselves. I'm not seeing that same approach now. I'm seeing that now it has to be called out by other people. And it's going even further than that. And this is a little bit disappointing, but it is the reality. Sometimes people, right now, what I'm seeing is they don't even care. We're having conversations and they've messed up and it's something that's very important, or they've missed a core fact or core information, and they don't even care. And they're not even taking accountability for it. They're not even correcting it. It's almost like it didn't even exist. And even if it did exist, what's a big deal? Or they don't care. And then it's indifference. That doesn't apply in the business world. That is non-performance. Okay, that's below what we call acceptable standards when it comes to a person's performance. Something that we need to call out for ourselves, and it's something that we need to call out for our team members. So this is an opportunity for us to step up and find that slippage, point it out, give people resources, and turn this around. Because if you don't think this is happening in your organization, I can guarantee you 110% it is. We are seeing this across the board in almost every single organization we are working with. And if you correct it, that gives you a competitive advantage.